Welcome, everybody, to the Elite 8 Preview Show on the Grizzly Crew Sports Network. The Elite 8 Preview Show is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. If you want to bet on the Elite 8 games this week, the Final Four next week, or the Major League Baseball season that's coming up, go to thegrizzlytruth.net. You can click on the MyBookie.ag banner. It'll take you right there. You'll get a promo code anywhere from 50 to 100%. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome my co-host, former Indiana Hoosier and 1981 national champion, combined to score 26 points with Isaiah Thomas in the championship game. Help me welcome to the show, Steve Risley.
Michael, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing all right. Was that introduction good enough? Because I know you like to bust my balls.
Oh, I genuinely like the fact that you promoted me to co-host and no longer just color commentator.
I didn't know I
So
ever
I feel like
called you a
I've stepped
commentator.
up in the world.
Well, fine.
I don't know what you called me.
On
radio, you've been nice. Off radio, you've called me a lot of things.
Well, yeah, but you called me a lot
That's okay.
of things, too.
We won't go that way. That's right. But most of mine were true. Anyway, how about this last 2 days? We picked them well, didn't we? Or at least I got to speak for myself here.
Well, I think I went a hit and miss. I think you definitely nailed the Michigan game over me. I did nail the Loyola game and damn near to score, too. You got to give me that one.
You did.
I
give
nailed
you
Texas
that one.
Tech. We both swung and
that
missed. We both swung and missed badly on Clemson. But that Clemson game to me is a case where I still think Clemson's the better all-around team. It's just Kansas shot unconscious at the start of the second half into the first half.
Yeah. I mean, but that again, it goes back to how you're going to measure things, and you really now you're in a situation now where you measure by who moves on and who doesn't, and it's just I think the 8 best teams, after watching minute by minute all the games and seeing them play, I think we have a great mix of very athletic teams left. You're starting to see the coaching start to really emerge now, and teams are winning and losing based on coaching, and you're still seeing the gelling at the right time thing. And, I think you got to look at some of these teams that are just gelling perfectly. Some of them are too well coached, who I think will be your eventual winners. And you've got the teams that are just so athletic, like Florida State just really surprised me by how athletic they were. They're a very athletic ball club, more so than I thought they were. And I think they really stepped up with just pure athleticism, which I think, ultimately won't carry them any farther than they've gotten right now. But we'll talk about that as we move on. But it's, I think the big story here is the entire seeding process and how many lower seeds we have moving forward and going on, and how of probably a bigger year than anybody, we seem to have really missed those middle seeds. And it just becomes so difficult now to seed those guys in the middle of the pack. It's easy to see the Duke or Kansas or Villanova, your elite programs. But when you get in that middle group, and the difference is back like when we played in 76, 81, and those years, there wasn't the abundance of talent that's out there. I mean, I liken it to saying, for every Elvis Presley there was in the world, there were probably 10,000 of them that were just as talented as him but never got discovered. Well, now because of AAU ball and other summer programs that didn't exist back in the day of UCLA dominance, Kentucky's dominance, Indiana's dominance, those programs to be discovered didn't exist as they exist today. So while we all know that the name brand players are going to still go to the elite programs, there are many players out there who aren't name brand high school players that have every bit of the talent of a Romeo Langford. They're just as good. They're going to end up gathering and pooling into a smaller, lesser-known program, and they're going to become very competitive, just as competitive, and still fly under the radar screen and maybe not have the hype on their back and the scrutiny on their back. So it's making for a really fun tournament to watch now. I think much more so when we could much more easily predict who was going to win.
Well, see, I think another thing that leads to the parity is television. Because if you look in 1981, if you were to choose to go be a starter at Northwestern, unless you were playing Indiana or Michigan, your game wasn't on TV. Now you can say, instead of going to the University of Kentucky, sitting on the bench and be the 11th man, I can go to Middle Tennessee State or Northern Kentucky, and most of my games are going to be on at least ESPN3 also.
Right, and that's a good point. Exposure dilutes things. It allows people to go other places and to play, to not be so fearful of playing at a Middle Tennessee State or Florida State. Schools that weren't necessarily considered big basketball powers. And I think that's great for the game. I think any more exposure we can give to the mid-majors, to not the super elite programs, and get talent in those, you get what you're getting right now, which is just a great tournament. I mean, you can't sit there and dominantly say that any one team is a lock-in on any game. I mean, Duke-Syracuse was close for a long time.
Yeah, and real quick, I want to add something to that real quick, because for the last 30 years, since Indiana beat Syracuse, I have held this notion that Jim Boeheim, because I thought he screwed up the end of that game, and I'm glad he did, was not a very good basketball coach. From watching these last 3 or 4 games his team's played, Jim Boeheim is a great basketball coach, and I was completely wrong. I mean, the defense, even though Duke had saw it, they still gave Duke trouble. And, I mean, they come down 3 with the ball with a chance to tie the score. And, I mean, that was basically – I don't think Duke and Syracuse either one are great teams, but they're great coaches on both sides there, which make both of them really difficult to beat in a one-and-done situation.
I agree entirely. I probably, for the same reasons you're not fond of Boeheim, I probably wasn't overly fond of him either. But, I mean, basically that game came down to, 3 or 4 points there, and it probably was in the hands of having a senior like Grayson Allen playing for you and having a coach like Krzyzewski, who's just maybe 1 or 2 points better than Boeheim in strategizing the game and getting Duke to execute maybe just a little bit better and be a little bit more disciplined than – that was a toss-up game until the end.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to transition to another one, and that would be the Kansas State-Kentucky game. And there, Bruce Weber is just a better coach than John Calipari. I was completely wrong on a couple of these, but I think this one was nailed. I think Bruce Weber's a hell of a coach. If you look what he did at Southern Illinois, a lot of people say, well, he took Bill Self's team to the championship game at Illinois. Bill Self never took an Illinois team to the national championship game while he was there. And at Illinois, they screwed up by getting rid of this guy, because this guy can coach. And Kansas State, I think their highest-rated player was Dean Wade, who's their best player, who didn't even play in that game, and he was ranked 105th. I don't think Kentucky even looks at guys that are ranked below 50.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I too didn't give Bruce Weber the credit he deserves. I think Kansas State's a very physical ball club. I think they've got a very solid coach, and I think they're headed to the Final Four. I mean, I think the magic of Loyola Chicago is, I say that, but again, I know how we want it in '81. We want it with Magic. Well, actually, I say Magic was already in the pros by then, but we did it with the gelling factor and having one great player. I think Kansas State is bound and destined to the Final Four now, and it's a crapshoot when you get there. I mean, I think Bruce Weber's done a magnificent job. Again, as I said all along, the farther along you get, the more responsible the coaching is for teams, surviving and playing on. And I think the best coaches emerged in the last 2 days. I mean, I dearly like Matt Painter, but I've never found him to be a good tournament coach. His teams have always underachieved. Now they got decimated with a bad injury that probably really hampered them a lot more than they'll take credit for themselves. But, Texas Tech just flat out outplayed them in almost every facet of the game with the kids that were there. And I hate to say that because I like to root for the home state teams. If it's not Indiana, then be it Butler, Purdue, or Notre Dame or Indiana State or Ball State or whoever's playing. But I just think that the coaching starts to emerge. And Texas Tech's coach is not very tested it really a lot, but we know that Matt has some deficiencies in coaching tournament basketball. And I think that's why Purdue just, met their mate today and they're done. And they probably got as far on talent as talent was going to carry them at this point in time. And then a better coach stepped in and basically just, took it to them.
And I think this sets up, to me, one of the greatest Elite Eight matchups ever. That's you got a number 9 seed, has never played a number 11 seed. Porter Moses has done a great job at Loyola Chicago as their coach. One of these teams is about to go to the Final Four. 9th seed K-State got this far by upsetting Kentucky on Thursday. Loyola Chicago, the 11th seed, beat a very good Nevada team who would upset Cincinnati. The Wildcats are trying to reach the first Final Four since 1964. The Ramblers haven't been there since 1963 when they pulled one of the greatest upsets in college basketball history, beating the University of Cincinnati, who was trying to win their 3rd straight. Jerry Harkness was the best player for that Ramblers team. K-State was a team that finished 4th in the Big 12. And when I look at this game, these two teams are really similar. They get after you on the defensive end. Neither team really rebounds the ball that well. So I think in the end, this game's going to be decided by the guards on both sides. And when I look at it, I think this is a close game. But I think Kansas State's guards offensively are playing a little bit better than Loyola's right now. And in the end, I think that's going to be the difference. I think Kansas State wins this game something like 59-58, 59-57.
I agree. And hey, I want to just revert back to you. And you picked Kansas State over Kentucky. I don't really consider Kansas State beating Kentucky after watching the game much of an upset. I think K-State was a better team. And I think the best team won that game.
And that was without their best player, Dean Wade.
Right, yeah. I think the physicality of Kansas State is just going to be too overwhelming for Loyola Chicago to handle. I just think that eventually they'll wear them down. I just think that they're a very physical ball club. They're a very well disciplined ball club. They play together as a team well, and gelling can overcome a lot of things, and it works well. But you still have to have talent to play, and I think it would be fun to watch Loyola Chicago in there. But I really think Kansas State is a Final Four team right now, based on the way things have played out from here. So we're both taking Kansas State to move on.
Yeah, but I would not be surprised, because as close as this matchup is to me, if you get a guy like Marcus Towns, the guard, who's scored 18 in Thursday's win over Nevada, if he gets hot, I could see them winning this game. And the other thing is Dean Wade, if he could somehow play, but I think they're holding him out. And if they do hold him out and he can come back in the Final Four healthy, Kansas State really could be the national champions this year. Yeah,
I mean, I want to say I don't think that there is any surprises left in the game, in the tournament right now. Every team is there for a reason. They're worthy of being where they are, and every game is going to be that close to play. And I just don't think there are any surprises left. You got to roll it out. We've proven that through this whole tournament, that starting all the way back from University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and Virginia, you got to roll it out and play. And if you don't bring your A game every time, it's not going to be a surprise. It's teams that have heart, have courage, play to win and not play not to lose. Coaching, it becomes a lot of it, and they get the breaks and they get the luck. So I don't see any game as being an upset. Whoever wins or loses any of these next 4 games over the next 2 days. But I definitely after watching them, I like Kansas State a lot. I think they have a very good balance between athletic ability and coaching and team unity. And I just think they're going to be a little overwhelming for Loyola Chicago. But that's on paper. That's entirely on paper.
Yeah, and the next game we're going to talk about is the second game tomorrow night, which is another game I don't think anybody saw coming, and that would be Michigan against Florida State. See, even mentally, I just said that.
Yeah.
But if you look at these teams, Michigan was a team that got hot in the Big Ten tournament. They ran through that. Then they had to take a week off. And they came back from that week, and they played Montana, they played Houston, and they did not play as well. They didn't look like they did in the Big Ten tournament, but they did enough to win. As you said, Destiny's Darlings, they hit a 3 at the buzzer to win a game. They play Florida State, which is a team that I think coming into this year was one of the most athletic teams, especially with the length they have on the floor. And they came out, and they blew out Missouri. They get past number 1 seed Xavier. Then they win big again the other night. So this is a team that's playing really well also. I think the key here is this. Florida State, to me, Michigan has a lineup with 5 guys that can spread the floor and shoot the ball. And the one key to Florida State is with that length and their athletic ability, I think that they can defend that Michigan offense better than anybody's been able to so far that they've faced. But in the end in this game, the thing this comes down to is I think Michigan is a better coached team. I think they're more disciplined, and it's a lot easier to slow a game down the way Michigan will want to than it is to speed it up the way Florida State needs for Florida State to be able to win.
Yeah, I can't debate you in any way on that one. I'm picking Michigan to win this game simply because I think that they have everything clicking right now. I think Florida State may be the most athletic team left in the tournament, but old age and treachery beats youth and exuberance most of the time, and I think Boeheim could be the deciding factor here. I think I saw where he had been to the Sweet 16 or the Final 8 3 of the last 6 years.
You mean Beelan, right?
He put his Beelan had put his team in the Elite 8 or the Sweet 16.
Oh, when
so
last
three
year?
of the last
they were the
years.
Sweet 16 last year. They lost to Gonzaga in a close game.
Yeah. So they've been to the Sweet 16 3 of the last 6 years. So, and that wasn't any of their strongest teams. But I'm going to stick with Michigan here just because I think they're the darlings of the tournament. And while everybody's on, the Nun and Loyola Chicago, I still think Michigan is the complete package of the darling team.
Oh, come on. They can't beat the darlings over Loyola.
I think to move forward, they are. I think they probably, for media hype, they aren't.
But the thing is,
they don't have a 98-year-old nun sitting there in a wheelchair cheering them on.
It's not the 98-year-old nun thing, because I didn't even realize that until the other night anyways. The thing it is to me is you got Loyola Chicago as a program. 63, they win it all. But from 63 to now, other than 1985, they've been non-existent. 1985, they won the MCC, the Midwestern Collegiate Conference. That's when Xavier was in it. I remember that because of that. But Loyola was really good that year. They had a guy, I don't know if you remember him or not, his name was Alfrederick Hughes. They won a couple games in the tournament. They lost in the Sweet 16 to Patrick Ewing and the Georgetown Hoyas. But to me, the story of Loyola is what makes this tournament so great. I mean, Michigan's a team that, when we did the preview show, you said you wouldn't be surprised if Michigan was in the Final Four. They won the Big Ten. I don't think Michigan's a surprise to be here. I can also tell you this, though. If Florida State can get a fast tempo in this game somehow, they could win this game.
Sure.
But I don't think they're going to be able to.
No, I don't either. I still think Michigan is a Final Four team. I think that they're destined to the Final Four, along with Kansas State on that side of the bracket. And, I think Beelan is just a veteran Grizzly coach who can keep his team in check and they don't get rattled. What impressed me so far in the tournament was not so much at how well Michigan's played, but how little they've gotten rattled and how they've handled adversity or handled, getting behind and stayed true to their program and their game plan and what they were doing and came back. And even if they hit it, they win with a 3-point shot at the buzzer, they won. That's the key operative word there. They won.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to keep on winning and until they come up against what will be the championship game. If they get that far, will be a team on the other side of the bracket that will either probably be Duke or Villanova that will be more talented and better coached. I think that's what it's going to come down to. But right now, Michigan just is figuring it all out. They're finding ways to win, and champions find a way.
All right.
So I'm not going to count them out.
And you brought up Duke. Probably the marquee matchup for CBS is Duke against Kansas. I think
Yeah,
this
it's
is a
tough.
game where Duke is definitely the more talented team, but I don't count Kansas out here. I think
Not
Kansas
at
could
all.
very
They
well
look
beat
good.
them because the thing I see with Kansas is they play together very well. I mean,
Hmm.
they're a team. When you look at Duke, I mean, they've been kind of hit and miss this year. They played a lot better over the last few weeks. They got Coach Krzyzewski, who's probably the second or third greatest coach that ever lived. They got Marvin Bagley. They got Grayson Allen, Gary Trent Jr., Wendell Carter Jr. But when I look at this game, I mean, I really like Kansas and what I've seen from them over the last few weeks. And this is a team that I did not think would make a Final Four run. But Bill Self's done a great job with this team. How do you look at this game, and who do you favor here?
Well, I look at it as this: is that what I've seen of Kansas, what's impressed me the most is the calmness that Bill Self has had on the coaching sideline. Usually, he's a pretty animated coach. He's been real calm and really focused on coaching his team rather than trying to ignite his team. But I think that's in response to how well the team has played, as you said, as a unit. I went out and done this. Kansas looks like a team with a mission. They look like a team with a purpose. They're very talented. Bill Self is a great basketball coach, obviously, having won before. This is the game of the Final Four games, if they get to that point, or this matchup now is Duke and Kansas, to put them into the Final Four. I'm just going to give the edge to Duke just because I just think this. I think Duke knows they can win the game. I think Kansas thinks they can win the game. And I say this because of the history and lore of Duke. And I think Duke's going to tip off 4-0, 5-0. Because Kansas is just going to look at Duke and go, good God, we have to play Duke. Why couldn't we play Kansas, Florida State, or Michigan, or somebody like that? We're the number one seed. Why we got to play Duke, who is as good as any number one seed left in the tournament, or as good as any one of the number one seeds that were in the tournament. So that's the only question I would have about Kansas right now is how do they approach this game? I'm sure Krzyzewski's looking at it and got his people believing we are Duke. We are the best program in the country. Day in and day out, we're here all the time. We get it right. He has a very talented basketball team. Grayson Allen has really impressed me as a leader on that floor. He steps up every time when there's a foul or a timeout. He's speaking to the younger players on his team and directing them on the court and coaching. And he's not a selfish player at all. I mean, the thing that impressed him the most about me tonight was his passing and cutting into the lane and finding guys open and getting other people to score or kicking it out for the open three and then going right over and patting them on the back saying, great shot. So I'm going to give the edge just because of Krzyzewski in this game to Duke. I think they're, once again, Final Four bound.
I'm taking Kansas.
But it's not going to surprise me if Kansas. No, it's not going to surprise me because to me, these are two of the three best teams left in the tournament. They're going to play each other Sunday.
Well, and see, I think the big key here is I think Duke has a younger team than Kansas overall.
Yeah, well, they have a senior leader who is a dominant player, and sometimes being dumb makes you not afraid. And I say being dumb, they're not dumb, but I'm saying by not being younger, they haven't experienced as much. By being young and
stupid, sometimes you don't realize what you're getting yourself into, so you don't
realize
the situation is that difficult. Yeah,
they don't realize the gravity of the situation. They're just going to go play, and they've got Grayson Allen there, who's a 4-year player, and they've got Mike Krzyzewski there to coach him, who's arguably the best coach in the college basketball right now. Unarguably, he's the best coach right now in the game. Maybe not of all time, but right now. And it'd be hard-pressed to say he's not in the top 2 or 3, as you said, of all time. So, but sometimes if Duke hasn't, been hacked or clawed or cut or cheated, they don't know. Like you said, they don't know. They're just going to go play hard, and they're going to rely on their leadership as they've done all season to carry them here, and here they are. But this is a great game. This is what I'm looking forward to watching more than any, is this game, because I think this is going to be come down to one or two plays in the last 2 minutes of the game to decide this game. Free throws are going to decide this game. A hit or made or missed three-pointer or a turnover are going to factor into this game. This game will not be a blowout.
All right, that brings us to Texas Tech challenging Villanova. Villanova, I think, is the best team in the country by far. Texas Tech, I think, is a good team. Defensively, they're solid, they're strong. But I think we saw West Virginia tonight was a really strong defensive team in a different way. You know, West Virginia presses all the time. I think what this comes down to beat Villanova, you have to be a complete team. West Virginia is a team that defensively is really good. Offensively, they're all right. Sometimes they play well, sometimes they don't. They're hit and miss with Coach Huggins, how his teams usually are. When I look at Texas Tech, I just don't think they're going to be able to score enough points to beat Villanova. I think for all this crap about Trae Young and how awesome he is, the best player in college basketball is Jalen Brunson. And if you watch this game tonight, he scored 27 points on that great West Virginia defense, and Villanova tagged them for 90 points. So I think in the end, you've got to be a team, to beat Villanova, you've got to be a team that can defensively play extraordinarily well, but you've got to be able to score, because no matter how well you play defensively, they're going to be in the mid to high 70s no matter what you do.
Yeah, I can't. I can't. I would restate what you said. I think that they're the best team left in the tournament on paper. But again, I say you don't play the game on paper. Again, I don't know how they're going to hold up against a Kansas or a Duke, who they'll ultimately have to face. But I think they're going to get by Texas Tech. I think they're very well coached. Their coach is just outstanding in terms of his demeanor on the court, the way he coaches his kids, the way he gets the most out of them, doesn't put them in peril during timeouts or anything like that. I sense that he's always trying to find a solution rather than point out flaws. You know, I love that in a coach. And, you know, he's not – I've never really seen him rip his players any. He's just always trying to say, okay, here's what we have to do to fix what we're not doing well. And that makes him a good bench coach. So I definitely like Villanova. I think they're just going to overpower Texas Tech on pretty much all facets of the game, discipline, talent. Texas Tech plays hard. They're very athletic, but I don't think they're ready to take on a Villanova, who is very well coached, very talented basketball club, and on a march to a mission, which is to win the national championship. I just don't think this is a team that's going to stop them.
And really, looking at the teams left, I think the only way Villanova loses this is if they blow it themselves. I mean, their biggest enemy is going to be themselves. If they can stay out of their own way, and we know, you know, sometimes you just can't. Sometimes, you know, you get in foul trouble, things happen. But all things being equal, I think if they played best out of 10 against every team left, I think the teams would be lucky to win 2 games against them, even Duke and Kansas.
I disagree. I don't think Duke would. I don't know that Villanova
Duke doesn't even come close to Villanova. Not talent-wise.
We'll see.
Jalen Brunson is by far the best player. Remember when you told me John Calipari was a better coach than Bruce Weber?
Yeah, I'd be the first to admit. I'm accountable. I am one of the people that will be accountable for when I puke on myself, and I puked on myself there. I lived off the reputation of Kentucky, and I still think that for what Kentucky does day in and day out, to fight the heat that they fight and still be as successful as they are is a mark for that program, because they are the enemy of college basketball.
Yeah, but see, they've made themselves the enemy of college basketball.
But they are
Adolph Rupp,
sure,
not taking a black player until 1970, till Joe B. Hall. We know how he ran it. Yeah.
Yeah, for all the boys in the South listening to us, it's like Dale Earnhardt used to say, I don't care if you're cheering for me or cheering against me. As long as you're making noise, you know I'm there. And I think that's how Kentucky is. There's people that root for them and people that hate them, but every time you open your mouth and you mention Kentucky, it means you know they're there.
But
and
the one thing I do know
about that program
is if I mention Duke, I know they're there for the same reasons, because they win. but I also
Right.
know that there's a really good chance that they're doing things the right way and winning.
Right. No, I agree. And again, Kentucky's not on probation, and they are not in any trouble. And I'm not trying to
The
defend them. I'm just
NCAA is
saying,
not going to put Kentucky on probation. Come on.
somewhere in this country, short of O.J. Simpson, you are still innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Well, I think that
Okay,
they're proven.
I mean,
they've been proven before guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So was UCLA at
Right.
times, and it was
Anyway,
let go.
we shouldn't be talking about Kentucky. They're out of it.
Yeah, I know.
like
But
Villanova.
you know what? I would
I
just
think
like to say
if-
for every Kentucky fan out there, it made me really happy when they lost.
And I'm not. It's never happy when you're a player. It's never a good thing when anybody loses at this point in time.
Oh, yeah,
My
it is.
biggest fear of all time in basketball would have been getting to the national championship game and losing. I could not even imagine what that feeling must be like to get to that game and then not win it. Oh my God, the angst you would live with for the rest of your life.
Luckily, those
It would make
Kentucky
you
kids will
sick.
never know that angst.
They won't. They won't know that angst. As will 67 other teams won't know that, or 66 other
No,
teams.
about
Two teams will.
343
Right.
other teams won't know.
But I sit there and I replay that every year I watch this tournament. I go, my God, what would my life mean to me? It would still be great, but basketball-wise, it might mean to me if I got to North Carolina in 1981, March 30th, and we lost to North Carolina, and I got to sit there every tournament and go, we were runner-ups, we were runner-ups, we were runner-ups, we were runner-ups.
And then it kills your
I
argument
just-
killer with me every time, where you just finish it with, I got a ring.
That's right. You don't have the ring, and that's what you play
I got
for.
rings, just not for the NCAA basketball championship.
Right. I get you, and I say this, but I think it's been a very fun tournament. I think there's some egg on the face of the NCAA about the selection process. I think that they're allowing television to get somewhat involved in the selection process, in the seeding process, looking for matchups that can sustain a 3-week tournament and create enough viewership to sell advertising at a premium dollar. I think that's creeping into it. I really do. I don't think like the way things are bearing out and heading, and it seems to be getting just a little bit worse every year.
I don't know. I think for the last 20 years they've been trying to set up matchups because I've seen UC and
but it's gotten
Kentucky,
more
UC
noticeable.
and Xavier, and they'll match them.
Right.
So if you win a game here, they're going to play each other. They used to do it in Kentucky and Louisville in the 80s.
Well, it's like you pit Butler and Purdue against each other in an early game. I mean, those are two premier programs in college basketball, but yet it's a big draw. It's a big early game draw. And regardless, we're not sitting in those meetings. We don't know exactly what they're thinking. I think it's a very difficult process now because the balance of power is so diverse now. Of the talent pool is so good across the board that there are teams that they can't rank properly because they just don't know, because they don't play against that quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. But yet those teams are capable of playing against those teams. And there's a lot of debate, and we heard it from the Middle Tennessee State coach. He can't get quadrant 1 teams to play him because they're not a quadrant 1 team. And everybody's now, they put him in these quadrants, and now everybody's like, I got to play quadrant 1 teams so I can boost my strength so I can get a higher seeding in the tournament. And see, they've created a little bit of a shitstorm by doing that.
Yeah, and remember this, the other problem is they need those matchups to get ratings so they can continue to get that $900 million a year TV contract.
That's $900
why we
million
get
just from
scheduled that
CBS. That's not $900 million from the advertisers that come on board, the sponsors that come on board, the official toilet paper of the NCAA.
I know, so it's
official
billions of
hire-
dollars.
It's billions of dollars at stake here, and I get it. And that's always what a nonprofit organization should be about, is generating profit, because you can bury it.
Well, I think they give
But
all
just by
that money
saying you're a
away to
501c
homeless
and
veterans
bury it.
anyways, don't they?
Yeah, I was listening to Fran Lebowitz, a great author out of New York. I think you better know who Fran Lebowitz is.
Yeah.
And she was talking about, she just came back from a trip from Russia. And she's talking about how she went to a museum. And she walked in and said, "Where do I need to go to pay?" And the guy there at the desk said, "No, it's free." I said, "Oh, what is it, a holiday here?" She said, "No, it's free every day." And she comes out and she finds out their health care is free, their educations are free, their college tuition is free, all their museums and events are free. And she said, "Why is that?" She said, "Well, our government just decided to say all the tax money we collect from Australians should be given back and paid back to the Australians before we take care of anybody else."
Yeah, that'd be
Novel
a great
idea.
Yeah.
Novel idea. So whatever the NCAA takes in, they should zero balance out, and it should go to D1, D2, D3, revenue-producing, non-revenue producing sports, and they should zero balance out and be penniless on December 31st when they file for their tax exempt status, and they balance it out to zero, and they put out all the money they've taken in, they put out.
Yeah.
And they've helped the kids in college because D3 kids don't get scholarships. Yeah, but anyway, we're getting off to a sidebar here that I just,
not really.
The
it's
NCAA
part of the tournament. I mean, this is the thing.
It is part of the tournament. The tournament has become a moneymaker, and from the NCAA's perspective, it is about making money and the power of crowning a national champion. But it's about making money, and that disappoints me when you throw that into college basketball, or college football, or college swimming, or college soccer, or anything. None of this said. I think you're going to look at in the Final Four. What I would say is, and gosh, I'm not the rocket surgeon here, but I definitely like Kansas State. I like Michigan. I like Villanova, and I like Duke. And then, boy, I tell you, I've been there that weekend, and everything goes out the door then. It's 40 minutes of pure bedlam as to what you have the ability to leave on that floor and play fearless basketball and play to win at that point. There are no more seedings.
And I think what people forget is when you get to a Final Four, and you could probably speak on this a little bit too, but if you're coaching in a championship game at any level or playing in a championship game at any level, but especially in front of a huge crowd, something like the Final Four, it can have an effect on you. We've seen it in Super Bowls where teams will come out tight, the other one won't. You end up with a blowout. And the thing is this, when you get in a situation like that, a lot of times it's hard to control yourself when you first get into that game, especially if things start to go wrong. So that's what makes when you get to a Final Four situation such a crapshoot, because you got a lot of 18 to 22-year-old kids that have never been in a pressure situation like that. And sometimes the game's not, more about who's the most talented team or who's the best coach team. It's about which team can get themselves back to like they're playing in a normal game the quickest.
Yeah, having lived through it and played through it and been successful in 1981, I can tell you right now, the difference is when you get into that, first off, you can kind of block the crowd out almost instantly. You really, as soon as you start dripping a little bit of sweat, you're into a game. You're not. It's no different than if you're playing in Assembly Hall against Northwestern on a Tuesday night. The game itself becomes just another basketball game because you're thinking and processing the attacks and the defenses that you have to do. But where the difference comes, and this I find this in myself playing golf at this point in my life. The difference of here is what wins championships and what doesn't is teams that play not to lose and teams that play to win. And it's the same thing when I stand over a 60-yard wedge shot with my hand wedge in my hand. I got to lob it over a sand trap. Am I thinking don't put it in the bunker, or am I thinking stick it close to the green, to the pin? And just that difference in the mentality helps you succeed in your shot making decision or on the court, on the decisions you make on a basketball court. Am I going to want to make sure I don't make a mistake, or am I going to make the play that's going to advance us further into this game? And that's what it really boils down to now with these 8 teams that are come up playing, whoever they are.
Yeah, and I think
teams from here on out that play to win.
I think the perfect example of that would be looking at the Falcons playing the Patriots in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and then this year with the Eagles playing the Patriots.
Great example. Right.
The other thing I'll tell you is this: from coaching in a championship game and winning and losing it, I can tell you, you won the game. And I've talked to some guys that have interviewed guys that have played in Super Bowls, lost them and stuff. And the thing that I have noticed is this: they're the ones that agree with what I just said, because when they start to lose that game, all of a sudden, at some point in your mind, it clicks on that, oh shit, this is it. And it makes it that much harder to win the game. And
right.
I see, that's the thing, because if you get a championship game and things start to go wrong, it seems like the game is over so quick you don't even have a chance to respond to it.
Time accelerates.
I bet if we talked to Al Wood or one of those guys, I bet they would have a different take on that game, and that's why you won that game.
Right. No, I firmly believe that they came into it playing not to lose. That they were on paper the higher seed, the better team. They had 3 All-Americans on their team.
Well, they beat you
think
guys
they came in
early in that year pretty good too, didn't they?
Early, they drilled us. They drilled us good, yeah. And I think they came into it thinking, we just don't want to lose this game. And we came in saying, we're going to win this game. And that was a tribute to Coach Knight. I mean, Knight at that game didn't back down from anybody. And he's sitting across the bench from Dean Smith, who is another one of the top 5 basketball coaches of all time.
Yeah, and the thing is this. I mean, you look at this, a lot of these teams get beat because they win a big game. I'll equate it to this. 1984, Indiana pulled what I think was one of the greatest upsets, winning the Sweet 16. They beat Michael Jordan in North Carolina. That was the Dan Dockage, Steve Alford, all those guys. They had a bunch of freshmen on the team.
Mm-hmm. Great game.
They won that game. And what I remember was, even as a fan, it's like, oh, man, we beat North Carolina. We're playing Virginia next. We're going to the Final Four. And Virginia was a team that I think their best player, if I remember right, was Othello Wilson, who was the point guard for them. They had lost Ralph Sampson the year before, and they came out. Indiana couldn't buy a shot, and they ended up losing the game like 50-48 or 52-48. So the thing is this. You can never be overconfident. Everything has to go the way it's supposed to go. And like you said, 51% of winning this, if not more, is just dumb luck. Not getting in foul trouble, not getting anybody hurt. Everything goes right. But, I mean, there's been so many cases where we'll see a team that does something outstanding in this game and comes back and plays the complete opposite the next game. So that's why when I see Loyola Kansas State, I think it's a complete toss-up, because you're looking at 2 teams that neither one thought they were going to be here.
No, I think all the games are a toss-up right now. I don't think, other than Villanova, I think they're all a toss-up, basically. I think it'd be a major upset if Villanova lost at this point in this game. But the rest of the games are just a flat-out toss-up as far as I'm concerned. You don't get this good or get this far and not be good. I mean, we weeded out all the pretenders. The players are gone. The players are still playing. It's done with now. Now we're talking the serious contenders for a national championship for this year. And I think either one of any one of the 8 teams that are standing right now are worthy. Who's going to get lucky? Who's got an edge, be it either talent or be it coaching? But somebody's going to have an edge, and somebody's going to have to get lucky. And like you said, you defined all the rules of luck: hitting shots, staying out of foul trouble, not getting injured, calls not going against you. That's all. Who's going to get lucky? Talent and coaching are what are going to define a champion from here on out. Now, so we'll see. There's good coaches left in the game. There's a lot of talent still left to play. And I think at this point in time, we can shut down the brand names of the universities that are playing and just look now at the coaches and the talent and the combination and the continuity by which basketball teams are playing right now. And then you're going to find your national champion.
Yeah,
but as I see it right now,
I just hope it ends up being Loyola Texas Tech, just so the NCAA can be happy. At this point, because I don't have a dog in the fight, I just don't care. It's been real fun to watch. All the games were fun today. They were all good, well-played games. I don't think that there were any travesties that happened in any of the games.
And I think in all cases today and yesterday, the 8 best teams won, and they'll play for the right to play for the national championship next weekend. And I think that's where we are. But if I'm going to put down a pool to take to Vegas and bet, I'm going to go with, like we said, I'm going to go with Kansas State over Loyola. I'm going to go with Michigan over Florida State. I'm going to go easily with Villanova, and I'm going to go Duke over Kansas. And I'm going to go with Duke and Michigan in the finals. But we'll come back and have another show before we get there, and after the Final Four selected, I'm sure we'll have another show because I'll probably be dead ass wrong, and only 4 opposite teams will probably be in. Because I don't know what the hell, because I can't predict luck. That's the problem. You can't predict luck.
Well, you can, but you lose most of your money in Vegas doing that, or on mybookie.ag,
right, yeah.
where you can go to thegruelingtruth.net and bet the games. We will be back with the Final Four show next week. We will let you know a couple days ahead of time. You can find out by going to Grueling Hoops. You can also, or on Twitter. You can also go to Twitter at Grueling Truth to find that out. So, Steve, the other thing we were going to talk about is having a show 2 or 3 days a week, just a general sports show. So if anybody has any ideas for a show name, and it's whatever you guys want it to be, you can send a message to at Grueling Truth. You can give us a show name we can try out, and maybe we'll do a Final Four show if Steve's up for it, maybe Thursday or Friday night, and see if we can get a few guests.
I'm always up talking basketball. I could find some of my teammates to bring on board next week if you give me enough time. If you double pay them double what you're paying me.
I'll pay them triple.
Fine.
I'll pay them triple.
Triple what they're.
You get Isaiah Thomas, I'll get him quadruple.
That makes me feel good about myself right now.
Why? As much money as you're making doing this right now, I don't think you should be so stingy.
Don't tell the IRS that I'm not getting paid anything.
No, IRS is not getting paid anything. I mean, I was going to announce that we are going to re-sign you for another IU year at $4.5 million, but since you don't want to pay taxes, we're not going to pay you anything.
There you go.
All right, guys, you can go to iTunes and download the Grueling Truth app, get all of our shows. We're just Indiana Basketball Weekly. Me and Steve's new show will come out. Any kind of boxing show you want to see, if you go on to gruelingtruth.net, you can find a show we did, a Boxing Legends show with former welterweight contender Randy Shields a couple days ago. Our Inside Boxing Weekly show is already up on there. It previews the fight coming up tomorrow. Talks about the Canelo Alvarez PED controversy. So make sure you check that out also. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Don't forget, you can hear us on iHeart, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.